Okay, let's have a bit of a look at this question from Insight 2020. So we've got functions f of x equals that and g of x equals that, where a is a real number. And what we want to do is find out for which values of a is g composed of f greater than or equal to 0 for all x. All right, so the best way to start with this one is to just graph both of them. So we've got sine x on 2, which the period is 4 pi. So let's do those quarter cycles, 2 pi, 3 pi, and 4 pi. And it's a sine curve, so we go bang, 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 bang. We produce that where 1 and -1 come out. Okay, now let's sketch this one here. And what I'm going to do is sketch it for, let's go a equals 0 first of all. So that's going to be g of x equals 0 times that plus 0, which is 0. So it's greater than or equal to 0 at a equals 0. Right, now let's sketch it for a greater than 0. Okay, so let's make a value, whatever it is. Okay, and a is our vertical translation, so we're going to go a up, and it's going to go to 2a, and then to 0. So that's the mean line along there. Right, let's do the period. So it's going to be 1 half, 1, 3 on 2, and 2 for the period. All right, so it's going to go like that. All right, now we don't really need to make the composition because what we can see is coming out of this sine graph here would be the values from -1 to 1. Right, so it produces values that this one certainly accepts and has no problems accepting. And so what we can say safely is it's a greater than or equal to 0. So if it's equal to 0, we get g of x equals 0, which is just that straight line graph there, or y equals 0 along the line. And for any value of a more than 0, what it's going to do is translate up a units and then max at 2a and min at 0. So our range is going to be, y is an element there, 0 to 2a. All right, so yeah, it's going to be a greater than or equal to 0. All right, for which value of x is g of f of x at its maximum on the interval 0 to pi when g of f of x greater than or equal to 0? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have a look at this graph here. All right, and what we can see here is the max value occurs when x is equal to a half, okay, and the y value there is 2a. So what we're going to do is go, hey, you, this function here, when do you actually produce the value a half, right? Because what we want to do is we want to get it to produce the half. Half then goes into this function here, which will then cause its maximum to take place. And we'll be able to work out when it has that maximum value over the interval 0 to pi, because it'll have it many times, because this produces a half many times. Okay, if I solve that over an unrestricted domain, it's going to be infinitely many solutions. But we just want to get the first half, which I think will fit nicely into that interval. So what I'm going to do is say, hey, when is f of x equal a half? So sine x on 2 is a half. That's going to be pi on 6 is x on 2. X is equal to pi on 3. All right, so when x is equal to pi on 3, what's going to happen is it will produce a half. If we keep going around to here, when's it going to produce a half again? It's going to be over here, which is 2 pi on 3. 2 pi on, what am I doing? 5 pi on 6 equals x on 2. We can see here that that's going to be 10 pi on 6 equals x, which is 5 pi on 3 equals x. That's out of domain. Okay, it's between 0 to pi. So when x is equal to pi on 3, what's going to happen is this value here, or this function here, will output a half. A half will go into this function here, and it will max at 2a, because a half goes in. What happens? We get pi times a half, which is pi on 2. Sine of pi on 2 is 1. 1 times a is a plus a is 2a. So there it is. We've got x is equal to pi on 3 will produce the maximum value over the interval 0 to pi. Okay, the last one, for which values of a is f of g of x greater than or equal to 0 for all values of x? All right, so this time what we want to do is have this function here greater than 0. And if we look at the function here, we can sort of see, all right, so here, if we consider that the function is, was it greater than and equal to? Greater than or equal to 0. So it's going to be 0 there and there and there. It dips below 0 there. So what if we just chop this part off and say that we only want it to produce values between 0 to 2 pi? Okay, so 0 to 2 pi will produce these positive values here. Right, so the way it's going to work then is what we want to have happen here is that the range of this function, we want the range of this function to be between 0 to 2 pi. We want to have it only producing 0 to 2 pi. So any value beyond that, what will happen is it'll cause it to go below 0. So if we think about it intuitively, if you have a look, g of x equals pi sine pi x plus pi. So if a equals pi, what's going to happen is it's going to go up pi units, and then the amplitude is pi, so it's going to go to 2 pi. And pi, take away pi, is 0, and that's going to allow that to happen. So the answer to this one here, for which values of x, for a, is that going to happen? It's going to be anywhere, so a, not x, a can be an element from 0 up to pi. So any value between 0 and pi will cause this to produce positive values or greater than or equal to 0.